Welcome to the deep dive. Look, if you're a professional in, well, pretty much any knowledge-based field today, you know the feeling. New AI tools popping up constantly, policies trying to keep pace.
Yeah.
It's a lot. Hard to know what's real and what's just noise.
Hmm.
So our mission today in this deep dive isn't about predicting the next big thing in tech. Honestly, that's a losing game right now. Instead, we're focusing on something much more valuable for you, building your adaptive capacity. We've dug into sources focused on frameworks for continuous learning, for resilience,
Right.
especially as AI keeps advancing, well, exponentially.
And that word exponential, that's really the crux of it, isn't it? The
Yeah.
sources we looked at are pretty blunt about the reality here. That half-life for technical skills, it's plummeting. We're talking maybe 2 to 5 years in most fields.
Wow, 2 to 5 years.
And for specific AI skills, it's even faster, much faster. So if you're waiting for the usual cycle, the official training, the budget approval, you're falling behind before you even start.
That distinction feels really critical. Exponential rather than linear change. It's not just jargon. I mean, linear change, you can kind of map that out, right? Like plotting a course.
Sure, you have a plan.
But exponential.
Yeah.
It's like the destination is moving, the car is changing, and the map is redrawing itself constantly. You just can't learn linearly when the tech is exploding like this. So how do we actually change our learning habits? Fundamentally.
Well, it's fascinating because the answer seems to involve ditching some old ingrained habits. Traditional professional development, especially in places like higher ed, it often revolves around these discrete events, the big conference once a year, maybe a workshop here and there.
The event-based model?
Exactly. And that model kind of assumes things stay relatively stable between those events. But our sources, they're unanimous. For the kind of rapid, ongoing AI evolution we're seeing, that traditional approach just isn't enough. It's insufficient. The shift has to be towards continuous process-based learning. And we pulled out 4 really key components, kind of integrated components, that you need to make that shift work.
Okay, let's break those down, because I can already hear people thinking, continuous process, where does the time come from? Especially when everyone's already stretched so thin.
That's always the challenge. But the first component addresses that directly. Daily learning integration. It means actually weaving learning and experimenting into your normal work. It's not extra homework. It becomes part of the job.
So, like, how? Give me an example.
Okay, maybe carving out, say, 45 minutes every Friday. Use it to test a new AI feature that just rolled out in your LMS. Or maybe use an AI tool to summarize a dense report you need to read. The point isn't just getting the summary, it's learning how the tool works, its quirks, its limits, and integrating that skill right away.
So it's about making learning a small, regular habit, not some big, intimidating project.
Yep.
Okay, what's number 2?
Number 2 is just-in-time learning. This is all about agility. Instead of trying to learn everything up front, reading 50 articles on AI ethics before you even try a tool, you learn what you need when you need it.
So reactive learning almost.
Reactive but strategic. Let's say a major AI update suddenly impacts how you need to design assessments for your course. You learn the specific AI integration skills needed right then to solve that problem. You don't wait for a comprehensive course 6 months later.
That requires a real mindset shift, though.
Yeah,
You have to get comfortable with not knowing everything, but being confident you can figure it out quickly.
you nailed it. And that leads straight into the third component, the experimental mindset. It's about approaching these new tools with a real sense of curiosity, a willingness to just try things out before you fully understand all the theory or documentation, speed of exploration over perfect execution, at least initially.
Get your hands dirty, basically.
Pretty much. Which logically flows to the fourth piece, reflective practice. If you're constantly experimenting, learning just in time, you absolutely have to pause and reflect. Was that little experiment useful? Did that AI tool actually save time, or did it create more headaches? You need regular, maybe even scheduled moments to think about what's working, what isn't, and how to adjust your approach.
That iterative cycle. Try, reflect, adjust, try again.
That's the engine. And it's worth noting, the sources call AI literacy a meta-competency, which sounds a bit academic, but the reason is important.
Why meta?
Because using AI effectively means you're constantly juggling and synthesizing knowledge across like 4 different areas at once. The tech itself, obviously, but also pedagogy, ethics, and your specific subject matter. You're updating your understanding in all 4 domains simultaneously. That continuous process-based approach, it's the only way to keep all those plates spinning.
Okay, juggling those 4 domains, tech, pedagogy, ethics, content, that's a great segue into the practical skills you need. Let's talk digital agility. This is the actual hands-on ability to pick up and adapt to new tools quickly. What does that really mean when we're talking generative AI?
Well, a big part of it is just technical comfort. It's partly psychological, being willing to click around, maybe break something small just to see how it works. Learning by doing, by trial and error.
Being okay with looking a bit foolish sometimes?
Exactly. But more practically, there's pattern recognition. Can you notice that, hey, the way you structure a prompt for this AI writing assistant feels kind of similar to how you query that AI research database? Being able to transfer learning from one tool to another speeds things up massively.
And I'd add, especially with AI, basic troubleshooting skills feel more vital than ever. When the AI gives you a weird answer, a hallucination, or just errors out, you can't just file a help ticket for every awkward prompt response. You need some basic diagnostic sense.
Oh, absolutely critical. And maybe topping the list right now, particularly for anyone in higher ed dealing with student data or research, is security awareness. You will be experimenting with new tools, maybe some small startup's niche product. You absolutely have to understand data privacy, how sensitive information is handled, recognize phishing scams targeting API keys, and know your institution's rules about using third-party software. That's non-negotiable.
Right, the practical skills are one thing. But then there's the deeper level, the mindset piece. The sources call this adaptive capacity. If digital agility is the skill, adaptive capacity is the underlying mindset that lets you keep learning and using that skill.
Precisely. And the foundation is a strong growth mindset. You have to see the inevitable challenges. The tool doesn't work as advertised. The policy changes again. The budget gets cut. Not as proof you can't do it, but as, well, data, as learning opportunities.
Easier said than done sometimes, but crucial.
Definitely. Then building on that, you need cognitive flexibility. Let's say the university suddenly mandates a completely different way to use AI in student advising. Can you pivot? Can you let go of your carefully crafted previous approach and adapt quickly when things change unexpectedly? It's about shifting mental gears.
And maybe the toughest one for academics, who often value certainty. Tolerance for ambiguity. Working at the cutting edge means dealing with incomplete information, tools changing literally overnight, documentation lagging behind features. You just have to be okay operating without perfect clarity. You can't wait until everything is settled before you act.
So true. And kind of tying it all together is systems thinking, understanding that, okay, if I introduce this AI grading tool in my course, it's not just about my course. How does it affect departmental grading norms, academic integrity policies? What about the load on IT? And crucially, what are the equity implications for students who maybe can't afford the paid version, seeing the whole interconnected system?
That's a really powerful lens. So boiling it down, the practical advice from the sources for building this agility and capacity seems simple, but maybe hard to stick to. Start small. Don't try to overhaul everything at once. Pick one small, low-stakes task, experiment. And this is key. Truly embrace learning from failures. Treat those experiments not as setbacks, but as valuable data generators. The things that don't work tell you something important.
That reframing of failure is absolutely essential. Okay, so let's say you embrace this mindset, you're ready to learn continuously. You immediately run into the next huge wall. Just the sheer amount of information.
Yeah, information overload.
Yeah.
It's a massive pain point for everyone I talk to. New tools, new research, new opinion pieces, new panics, every single day.
Mm.
How do you avoid just drowning in headlines and actually focus on synthesis and application? What helps you make sense of it all for your work?
It demands really rigorous curation. You need a strategy, a kind of hierarchy for your sources. At one level, you have academic and research publications. They offer depth, peer-reviewed rigor. That's vital for understanding long-term implications, foundational concepts.
They're slow.
But they're slow, exactly. Because of peer review, they can be months, even years, behind the absolute bleeding edge. So they're necessary, but not sufficient for your day-to-day tactical adjustment.
Okay, so where do you get that more immediate applied insight?
Well, then you look to professional organizations. Like in the higher ed space, EDUIs is a key example. They provide curated guidance, often focused on institutional concerns, ethical frameworks relevant to your context. Then there's broader industry analysis, good for spotting trends, and maybe most practical, institutional case studies. Seeing what actually worked or failed at peer institutions, that's gold.
Real-world examples. Okay, so you've got your trusted source types, but how do you manage the flow? Even from good sources, it can feel like drinking from a fire hose. What strategies did the sources suggest for just managing the intake?
Yeah, managing the flow is key. First, and maybe hardest, is selective attention. You have to actively filter. Tune out the general consumer AI hype, the endless articles about generating funny cat pictures, and focus laser-like on what's actually relevant to your teaching, your research, your administrative work.
Be ruthless about relevance?
Absolutely. Second is practicing source validation, getting good at quickly assessing, is this credible analysis? Or is it just hype or maybe even misinformation? Often that means cross-referencing. Does this industry report align with what the more cautious academic papers are saying?
Developing that critical filter.
Exactly. And third, maybe more for your own sanity. Boundary setting. Don't try to monitor everything constantly. Instead, schedule regular, focused times to review information. Maybe it's an hour every Monday morning. Set a timer. This prevents the endless chase for the latest thing from completely overwhelming the actual work you need to do.
Right, protect your focus time. That makes sense. Quality over quantity.
All right.
But as we drill down into the tech, the learning process, the information management, it feels important to pull back and remember why we're doing all this. The goal isn't just to master the tech, right? It's about upholding our core values, maintaining human agency in education.
Absolutely critical point. As AI gets more capable, we as professionals have to keep an unwavering focus on the educational mission, on human judgment where it truly matters. And there are areas where that judgment is simply non-negotiable, like maintaining a fierce student-centered focus. Is this AI tool actually serving the student's learning and development?
And the sources really hammered this point. We have to prioritize equity and access. If using a powerful new AI tool requires an expensive subscription, what does that mean for students who can't afford it? Are we creating a new digital divide? We have to constantly adapt policies to ensure AI doesn't undermine fairness or academic integrity.
And preserving that core function of higher education, fostering critical thinking development. We need to be so careful that AI becomes a tool to enhance critical thinking, not a shortcut that allows students to bypass developing those crucial analytical skills themselves.
Which leads us nicely to the skills that endure. If the tools themselves are constantly changing, maybe the smartest bet is to focus on the timeless professional skills. The human skills that give you resilience no matter what the tech landscape looks like.
That's where true career resilience comes from. These are the skills valuable whether you're working with people or, increasingly, with hybrid human AI teams.
That's what are they? The sources highlighted things like communication excellence may be more important than ever when you need to explain complex AI implications to diverse audiences. Critical thinking itself, obviously. Emotional intelligence, absolutely vital for advising students, leading teams, managing the anxieties around change. Cultural competence, and robust ethical reasoning.
These are the durable human skills. And they're complemented by what you might call adaptive meta skills. These are skills that turbocharge your ability to learn and adapt. Things like learning how to learn effectively, that systems thinking we talked about, and collaborative leadership, figuring out how to guide and manage these emerging hybrid teams. Focusing here really positions you for whatever roles come next.
Okay, so let's try to synthesize this whole deep dive for you, the listener. The core message seems to be, success in this AI era demands a fundamental shift. Moving away from thinking about learning as occasional events and embracing it as a continuous, ongoing process.
Right. And that means cultivating that digital agility through deliberate practice, experimentation, and reflection, and building your own personal infrastructure for learning, curating sources, managing information flow with strategies like selective attention and setting boundaries.
Don't try to boil the ocean. Start small, be consistent.
And don't forget the power of connection. The sources also really underscored the value of your professional learning networks. Lean on them. Share what you're learning. Ask questions. Solve problems together. Find colleagues navigating the same rapids. You're not in this alone.
That community aspect is huge.
Yeah.
Okay, so as a final thought, something for you to chew on. The sources hinted at an interesting strategic approach for career development in this uncertain future. Instead of going super deep, specializing in one narrow technical skill that might be automated or obsolete next year.
Think about a portfolio approach. Diversify. Build a strong portfolio of core capabilities, those timeless skills, the adaptive meta skills, maybe competence in a few key types of AI applications relevant to your field. Cultivate resilience by being adaptable across different contexts, not just a narrow expert. Position yourself to be valuable for the roles that honestly don't even exist yet on our current org charts. That dynamic, continuous adaptation grounded in core values, that's the real essence of adaptive capacity.